welcome, Chami Abeysinghe. We are going to be talking about a wonderful region in New Zealand, the southernmost region, if you don't include Stewart Island as a region perhaps in of its own. We're going to be talking about Southland, and we have with us today the CEO of Great South, and that is Chami Abeysinghe. And
Sorry.
let me just segue for you. So you've moved from that kind of grounding into the CEO of Great South, the Regional Economic Development Agency. So what did you confront when you first arrived in terms of, okay, I'm now running this organization, I'm thinking about Southland. Can you describe what you confronted? And as a migrant, I'm sure that was fresh in a lot of ways, but being at SIT gave you a great grounding. So what did you feel were the challenges for Southland when you
So when I arrived here as the CE of Great South, I think the number one sort of challenge was that there was this amazing engine that supported economic development that probably didn't have the right presentation or representation within the community. As a council-controlled organization, which is what Great South is, we have nine or eight shareholders and one member organization, and it is a really complex beast managing relationships, conflicting sort of priorities, and all four councils are funding members. And we've also got the likes of SIT, Invercargill Licensing Trust, Mataura Licensing Trust, the Southland Chamber of Commerce, and Community Trust South is our member organization. So you've got that commercial lens as well. So, and this organization has an extremely capable commercial board. So really the challenge, the number one challenge for me in this particular position, it was that we've got a commercial focus with a commercial mandate, but majority funding and majority shareholders being council, which are more regulators and very risk averse, really looking at, regulating community well-being, infrastructure development. So it was kind of a little bit of an oxymoron, which I fully appreciate. Not many people will understand, I suppose, because you're either in local government or outside of local government. And that was really quite challenging. But the last few years that I've been in this job now has enabled me to form what I know, and I'm pretty sure my shareholders will echo this sentiment that it is strong relationships. And the more you understand your company, a customer, the better you can deliver. And that's marketing 101, really.
well, let's
I'm an international marketer by profession, and that's what I've learned right throughout. If you know what your customer wants and you can deliver it, then you will have a winning formula. So that's really where we're
right.
coming from. The
That's a good segue because now I want to push you a little hard on the region and the regional economy. So you've got a mechanism that you're the CEO of, and now you've actually got to translate that into changing or improving the regional economy. So what were the key challenges for you when you arrived, and then we'll move into what's been done since.
So the key challenges for Southland as a region, I think the main challenge is really that we are the second largest geographic region in this country with 100,000 people. So 2% of New Zealand's population is really what drives this economic engine. Plus, we've got real challenges with being able, we don't have a large rate base, so the councils have a real problem finding enough finances to support the infrastructure needs, given that we've got a large, wide, expanded regional geographic spread. We don't have the necessary sort of tools to ensure that all of our little communities around Southland are interconnected. For example, we don't have public transport within the Southland district area. We have public transport in Invercargill City, and then we go to Gore district, there's nothing there again. So when you look at us, the makeup of Southland is heavily rural focused, rural communities, heavily agricultural, manufacturing, forestry, that sort of those sort of industries really lead us, but they're quite isolated and with competing priorities for councils, sometimes they've got to make some really difficult decisions on what they're going to progress and what they're not going to progress. Um,
And on the
what,
flip side of that coin,
yes,
Southland is probably, I think in the leadership tables, it's always at the top, if not the top region in the country for its export orientation. A large percentage of what you produce in Southland is exported as
that's
compared to
correct.
other regions. So why is
That is
that?
absolutely correct.
Yeah,
Well, I suppose it is because we are very heavily, agricultural focused, but we've also got TY here. So when you think about the GDP, 70 around 70% of our GDP is export focused, and we're the third highest region in the country per capita to have the highest exports per capita.
and how
We
much of that is a share of TY Point, the aluminium smelter?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not too sure.
We'll follow
I,
up.
yes, we will follow up.
We
I'll
will
get
follow
that.
up. I
I'll
know
get
they're
that
very
answer.
large and they use a lot of power, which of course you produce as well. But anyway, we'll come to that.
That's right.
Yeah,
Um, just with that, like 12% of all pastoral exports for New Zealand comes from this region as well. So that gives
with
you a
2%
context.
of the population.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah,
And I think that has been, while it's a great out achievement that the region has been able to come to, we also, on the flip side of that, is that sometimes we do get overlooked. We'll get it
yeah,
done because we're quite innovative and we're quite pragmatic and we'll roll up our sleeves and get things done, and we always will. However, with a little bit of support, we know we could do a little bit more as well. So
right.
those
And
those
any
are
other,
those are kind of like the main challenges that we have now.
yeah, and what about the work base, the employer-employee base? Because I know there is a large amount of secondary industry there as well. It's not just a rural area in those terms. But
Yeah.
how are you managing in terms of your working age population and skilled workforce and so on?
As with the rest of the country, we are an aging population. We need to accommodate for that. We also have the natural phenomena. I think that many of our youth want to leave our region and they do go out, they go overseas or they go to different areas, especially for tertiary education. But matter of fact, it's just they want to get away from mum and dad and, live their lives a little bit. And when they get married and have their children, they tend to come back. So you've got a little bit of a gap in between.
Yeah,
However, what we're seeing right now is that the younger generation is getting actually quite financially astute, which means that they don't want to take on those heavy sort of debts. And if we can offer them the opportunities, which we're hoping to do with our sort of long-term plan of new innovative industries that will come into our region, we are seeing that there's more choosing to either go away for a little while but come back sooner than what we had in the past. So there's a big work program that's happening, but we're in a financial environment at the moment, David, that the country is going through, and so unemployment's quite high, whereas definitely compared to last year. But we've got a great institution here that SIT tends to, attract a lot more students during times like this, and which means that on the once we come out of this sort of rut, we will have more skilled labor. And
so
working with institutions like that is to identify what are the skills that we need. Working with industry and being that conduit will really does help.
okay, that's a really good description because leads us into the next question, and that is that your strategic approach to, if you like, diversify and increase the wealth that stays within Southland. I note that you have your strategy called Beyond 2025, and the it's pulled out a few sectors, which I'll just read off for listeners: aquaculture, renewable energy, data centers, space operations, tourism diversification, and agricultural diversification. And there's a nice mix there, I think, between building on your traditional specializations, but trying to add value and new things happening, such as space. What's
Space
going on
operations.
there?
Yes, a very exciting venture, and Great South is extremely proud to be the owner of Space Operations New Zealand. And our CEO, Robin McNeill, was the inaugural recipient of the Prime Minister's Award for, pioneers within the space industry in New Zealand. And he received that award last year, which is fabulous. But it's space operations has really been around for quite a while. It was under Great South, or at the time we were known as Venture Southland. It was established with resources from the European Space Agency. And it really is, it's what's called a satellite ground station. So we have all of these little satellites that track the movements. And we have antennas that track the movements of satellites, downloads data, and that data is then used for by various companies, by various communities for whatever it is that they need. So this is an export-oriented business. Most of the customers are based overseas. Of course, we work very closely with the New Zealand industry, with LINS. There's a lot of information that is downloaded and can support all of New Zealand. If we have a catastrophic event, we are able to get satellite images of what was before, what is now, understanding what the differences are, and it really puts us in a very strong position.
Why Southland?
South,
Why would this happen in Southland? Why can't this be any other region?
well, we've got sort of really flat land, as those listeners who have traveled to Southland and to Invercargill in particular will understand how flat our land is, and that gives us a very clear sight of line and unobstructed ability to download data. So it's quite unique to the location that we are in, and hence why the foresight of some of the people that were working in this industry, in this agency, were able to work with international partners to bring that technology here to Southland. And it has really grown from strength to strength. We're so super proud of it. We've also, as an extension of what's happening down at Awarua in Bluff, in Invercargill, we also have a operation up in Warkworth that really supplements us to now enable the business to talk to, support deep space sort of missions and not just downloading data from satellites as they pass us by. So it's
You're
really
also
exciting.
close to Antarctica, aren't you? There's a couple of research organizations there, I note. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
the one
Last stop
underneath
before
is,
Antarctica, that's what I say.
yeah, yeah. Um, the one underneath says data centers. Why on earth would you put a data center in Southland? Usually, quite often, when you think of data centers, you think of them being in a city or right next to a city with a whole lot of users. So, what's the idea behind supporting data centers in Southland?
Data centers, again, data centers need a huge amount of energy. So the two main reasons why data centers are being considered down here, huge amount of energy needed, and the closer to the source, the cheaper it is, obviously. Also, they need their energy. Majority of the energy that they use is used to cool the data center.
Mm.
And therefore, if you locate your data center in a cooler climate, the amount of energy consumption is reduced considerably. And talking to one of the bigger opportunities that are coming our way, the managing director of that company identified that nearly $17 million a year of energy could be saved by just by being in Invercargill and just by being in a cooler climate.
Yeah. And
But of
so,
course, it's not just only being in a cooler climate where you could probably set it up, let's say in Antarctica, for example, but it has to have the right sort of infrastructure to support it and be able to get the data in and out security wise. Yeah. So
yeah. So at this point, I need to declare that I've been working with a large one that is looking to locate or has bought land in Southland already, and that's DataGrid. And of course, they're looking at AI training, which essentially is machine learning and developing products for AI. And that takes a lot of data, doesn't it, Shami?
it
And a lot of
does.
energy and a lot of cooling. So it's kind of ramped up, hasn't it? Which is,
Really has.
yeah,
Very
it's,
exciting though,
yeah.
because DataGrid's sort of business proposal isn't only simply about a data center where you store data. It's more about that connectivity and enabling data security opportunities for New Zealand as well.
So they're two really interesting sectors that are like frontier sectors for you, aren't they? Let's
Correct.
just switch now to some of the others, such as aquaculture or agriculture and maybe tourism. Can you talk to us a bit about those and how you can actually move that forward in terms of what it can return to Southland in terms of jobs and so on?
Absolutely. So, tourism and agriculture are two of our main sort of industries as we speak today. What we saw once we had the global pandemic and COVID-19 hit everybody around the world, tourism took a real big dive. However, it did give us the opportunity to reset ourselves. What does tourism really mean? How can we make it more valuable to our place, to our people, to our environment? How could we provide a better experience to our visitors that we value so much? So that's the kind of diversification that we're looking at through tourism, using our absolute amazing landscapes and amazing facilities that we have down in Southland. I mean, we own, or like New Zealand's most iconic tourism attraction is Milford Sound, Pupeatahi. So using those sort of assets to bring greater value and to ensure that we've got opportunities for entrepreneurs, for new businesses, for new service providers to come in. So agriculture is pretty much the same as well, but agriculture is really more around how do we create additional value for what we have and what we're doing currently. And that is moving more in line with carbon-related disclosures that are becoming more prevalent in markets that we're exporting to. How do we get our exporters on a carbon decarbonization journey that will enable them to make most use of the environment and the facilities that we have here. Southland has been on this decarbonization journey for a long time now. We probably have really good association with businesses to association with businesses to like look at their energy needs, moving from fossil fuel burners to sort of alternative methods, whether it's biochip, whether it's electricity, whether it's something else. So it's just working really closely with our businesses here, and building up a really strong provenance story about Southland produce that we are giving you a greater value, and therefore we need to realize that greater value.
That's amazing. So tell us a bit. I understand there's some wind energy projects underway or in train. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Yes, so we have established four energy strategies for this region. So basically, we do a strategy, we let it pan out for a while, then we review it when environments change and opportunities change, and then we update it and so on and so forth. So the current strategy has actually mapped wind, solar, hydro sort of areas that could go through. So when businesses and people looking to invest in these areas have this data and information available, it just makes it easier for them to know, okay, so the preliminary information's done there, so let's go ahead and see, move to the next stage where we look at the feasibility and then we look at the consenting and then we just get it done. So we honestly think in Southland we can become the regional energy hub for New Zealand. We've got very, very strong interest. Obviously, we've got Manapuri as the hydro dam that is predominantly servicing Tiwai. We've also got quite a number of wind farm projects and another big project that has been, in that is in the pipelines now. Um, a couple of years ago, we had Southern Green Hydrogen that had expressed some interest, but unfortunately, that hasn't progressed further. But it doesn't mean that hydrogen won't go ahead, and it doesn't mean that it won't go ahead anywhere else in the country either. But we have like the likes of H.W. Richardson that are already converting their big trucks into hydrogen, a hybrid model with hydrogen as a fuel alternative. So we've made a lot of strides, I think, to really cementing ourselves as being we know what we want to do and we know where to do it and we know how to do it. We just want people to come in now and put in the investment, create the opportunities, get the jobs, get the people here. Then my problem with the 100,000 people will go away because we'll have more people to work
And
and to pay.
if you were to sum up now, Shami, what would be the biggest opportunities do you think for foreign investment or inward investment into Southland? What sectors, what areas, what do you think would be the big ones?
Well, I apologize, David. I didn't speak about aquaculture before, and aquaculture was something that we identified in 2014, I believe it was when Southland came up with the Southland Regional Development Strategy. It was called SWORDS. And one of those areas of priority was aquaculture. And so there was a lot of groundwork that was already undertaken. Now, with climate change, we see this more prevalent than it was before. With climate change and warming of the sea waters, means that cooler climates, again, like the data centers, a cooler climate is more attractive and less costlier for aquaculture to go ahead. So we have aquaculture, obviously. New Zealand has established an aquaculture strategy for the country, and in that they've already identified Southland's part to play. And along with that, we believe that we can really develop our aquaculture industry, whether it's sea-based or land-based, whether it's salmon or any other fish, or seaweed, or lobsters, or shellfish, or mussels, or dare I say the oysters, obviously. So there's really that that wide-ranging opportunity with aquaculture. We've seen with the oysters in particular and mussels. I think the biosecurity risks that come with it, and so there are things that we need to do, and we are very, very keen as a region. And I do speak on behalf of the councils and my shareholders because we've put that as part of a regional deal opportunity for, when we made an application to the government earlier this year. And aquaculture is a really good opportunity to invest in, as well as the data center. And I know that a capital raise will be announced sooner rather than later, I believe. We've also got opportunities for renewable energy, but really anything to do with engineering, manufacturing. We've got a really strong business environment here as well. So we're happy. We're happy for anybody to come with whatever idea they have so that we can support them.
That's a great sum up. And I love the fact that you've got a strategy and now actually there's some actions underway and in place to accept that investment and take it forward. So thank you
That's
very much for
absolutely
that
right.
interview today, Shami. It's been brilliant. And we look forward to seeing exciting things from probably well recognized and one of the best known regional economic development agencies in New Zealand. You were doing it long before many others. And so
Thank you,
congratulations.
Dave. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Lovely speaking to you.
Yeah, lovely speaking
The
to you
best.
too, Shami. All the best.